Now, the Napleton Sports Desk with Sports Director Scott Lepper.
Big changes are coming in high school football in Illinois.
An IHSA proposal has been passed. The member schools, they're going to do away with the conferences and put schools in districts to compete for playoff spots. Many schools were for this, but almost as many were against it, right, Scott?
Yeah, there are strong feelings on both sides of this topic. Here's how close the vote was. 324 schools voted for districting, 307 voted against it. 69 schools basically gave it a pass and offered no vote. Here's what this means. Starting in 2021, all schools will be placed into districts. They'll be grouped by school enrollment size and grouped geographically. The schools in the districts will play each other during 7 weeks of the regular season. At the end of the season, the top 4 schools in each district will make the playoffs. This will give schools like Belvedere and Freeport a better chance at making the playoffs because instead of playing Hononegah and Harlem, schools almost twice their size, they'll be playing schools of comparable size like, say, DeKalb or Sycamore or Rochelle. I am sympathetic toward their plight, but I am not in favor of this at all. I think the negatives far outweigh the positives. There will be no more conferences and conference championships. Most traditional rivalries will go by the wayside. Most teams, at least around this part of the state, will have much longer road trips for games than they currently have. The message the IHSA schools and the schools that voted for this proposal are sending is it is all about the playoffs. Forget everything else. They're significantly altering the 9-game regular season in football so that a handful of schools who feel they don't have a legitimate shot at making the playoffs now have a shot. More than half the schools still won't make the playoffs, and of the 256 that do make the playoffs, they'll be one and done. They'll lose the first week. So again, they are altering the entire 9-game regular season for a few schools for what will, in most cases, amount to a one-and-done playoff scenario. Some people will say, hey, Scott, in basketball, schools are grouped into regionals and sectionals by enrollment and geography, and there are no complaints there. That is true. The difference is during the regular season, you still have conferences and conference championships and natural conference rivalries. The regular season is untouched in basketball by the postseason.
Yeah, that really seems to be like that's the big point too, other than the far travel, is that you get rid of these conferences and you have these teams that they know they face each other every year, and it brings out a lot of people.
It's hard for me to get up for a, let's say, Belvedere versus Woodstock game as opposed to Belvedere versus Harlem, and I know there are people at these smaller schools going, finally, we've got a chance to make the playoffs. But at the same time, when you look at everything, I just think, again, way too much emphasis on the playoffs. There's more than making the playoffs that go into high school football and high school sports.
And why do you think almost 70 schools just decided not to vote?
I guess they were teetering, and it didn't really matter. They could go either way.
So this is a done deal? When does it go into effect?
2021 it starts, 2021.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
We'll be back.